Today we're taking a trip into Northern Ireland and visiting Belleek Pottery. Hi, thanks so much for joining me again here on the Traveling in Ireland podcast. Today we are heading to County Fermanagh, and I cannot wait to introduce you to my guest. But before we do that, I just want to remind you, if you visit a place that you heard about on the podcast, be sure to let them know. This helps me to get more great guests to the show and share more terrific Ireland attractions and tips. So go ahead and be a name dropper. Just say, I heard about you on the Traveling in Ireland podcast. Now, when you think about beautiful Irish craftsmanship, Belleek pottery nearly always rises to the top. I mean, you can tell a Belleek when you see it, whether it's a beautiful white vase with a delicately painted shamrock or one of the woven baskets. It is always, it's just, you know it at a glance. So today, my guest is Patricia McCauley, who is the manager of the Belleek Visitor Centre in County Fermanagh. Patricia, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Jody. Delighted to be able to chat with you and about all things good in Belleek and Fermanagh.
So let's start with an overview of where Belleek is located and a little bit about the county. I've been through County Fermanagh a couple of times. It's a beautiful area. It's not an area that a lot of people maybe outside of Ireland hit unless they are pursuing water sports or fishing, I think. But it's a beautiful county, and there's a whole story about how Belleek was kind of created based on some very special earth, right?
That's right, yes. Well, we are, as you know, we're in Belleek. It's a small little village in County Fermanagh. We're situated right on the banks of Lough Erne. And I sometimes say we're either at the beginning of Northern Ireland or at the end of Northern Ireland because we're right on the border with Donegal. Fermanagh itself is known as the Lakeland County. So we're told that there's an island for every day of the year in Fermanagh. So we're surrounded by water, and the county town of Enniskillen is an island town. So we do get a lot of people coming to Fermanagh, as you say, for the water sports and for the fishing. But later on, I'll tell you there's a whole lot more to see and do in Fermanagh.
It is a lovely county. And when we were there, so we circled Lough Erne, we stopped at Castle Caldwell Forest Park. So Castle Caldwell, and you can correct me if I'm remembering incorrectly, but the owners of Castle Caldwell were the people who started Belleek. Am I remembering that correctly?
That's right. Castle Caldwell estate was owned by the Caldwell family. John Caldwell Bloomfield, he was an amateur mineralogist, and he did a survey and discovered the feldspar, the kaolin, all the different ingredients on his land, which went to making pottery. So he then provided the land. William Armstrong, who had expertise in ceramics and who was also an architect, joined him, and David McBurney, who was a financial guy from Dublin. So the three of them got together, and that is how Belleek came about. Belleek is purpose-built. The factory is the original factory, so when you come to visit, the building that you see was established in 1857 and purpose-built because all the raw materials were found on site. And in fact, the Caldwells would have owned from where you were at Castle Caldwell. They owned all the land right through from there to the village of Belleek.
Wow. And, I think probably one of the most fascinating things is it's a forest park now. People can go and visit. Obviously, it's right on the lake. It's a beautiful, beautiful lands. And we passed by the ruins of the castle the first time without even realizing they were there because it has completely been, it's like the land has taken it back, and the trees and the vines and everything, they literally just cover the ruins of the castle now, which to me is, it's almost magical.
It's a pity, but it's a pity that it has got into it. That it hadn't been preserved, because it would have been such a natural connection to go, from the pottery out to Castle Caldwell, which some people do, but they have an investment plan in place to do some restoration in Castle Caldwell because it's now part of the Geopark.
Oh, okay.
So there is going to be quite a lot of work done there. So hopefully, in future days and years, that connection will happen again, that, we will have something out there where people can go and visit and enjoy that aspect of it as well.
Oh, that'll be fascinating to see. I always love to see when that history is preserved, those stories can come together. And like I said, it's such a beautiful spot. So
it is. It's very peaceful. It's very tranquil. And as you say, the walk takes you right along by the river there. And it's a lovely walk because there's a complete circle there.
Mm-hmm. So Belleek, when you see it, you know what it looks like when you're talking about the pottery. And I've heard it referred to, you said ceramic, I've heard it called pottery, I've even heard it called Irish china. Is there a proper term for Belleek?
Belleek is Parian. It's Belleek Parian china, and it's made in the pottery. So we call the building the pottery. And Parian means translucent and marble-like. So unlike bone china, which is white, Belleek is cream, and it's translucent. So when you hold it up to the light, you can almost see through it. Some of the older pieces you definitely can see through, but we have a slightly stronger body now because it's more durable for everyday use. And we do like people to use their Belleek and get enjoyment out of it. So it's Belleek Parian china, and it was referred to, the Parian comes from, it was referred to the marble which you see on the Greek island of Pharos. So that was the reference for Parian.
Okay.
Back in 1857. So
even, because I have a little woven basket, I have the Lochern basket. I feel like they make a different basket every year. So is it like the Lochern basket was made one year and it's not made again? Is that right? Is that something that they do? Am I remembering?
That's right. So each year we produce an annual basket, and that runs really from January to December. So it could be a cherry blossom basket. We did a Caldwell basket many, many years ago. It was for one of the anniversaries. We have a daisy chain basket this year. We've had cherry blossom. We've had Hanako. We've had a Rosnowla basket. So yes, every year they come up with a new design of basket, and that just sells for 1 year.
And the way I'm thinking about it, I know you said that Belleek is designed to be used, but these baskets, they're like these little woven bits. And I'm going to put a picture on the article of mine so people can view it. But it's like they're almost these strands of pottery that are woven together. And I know you said Belleek is meant to be used, but I can't imagine using that other than for just to look at. It just seems like it's too delicate. Am I wrong?
Well, Belleek is stronger than it looks. Now, the baskets are a little more delicate. Well, all of Belleek will pass through 16 pairs of hands from start to finish. So that's the amount of hands that will touch each piece of Belleek. The baskets are hand woven individually, and then each strand is hand woven first in one direction and then in the opposite direction. Each flower, each petal is individually handmade. Now, sometimes people use their baskets, just as a centerpiece. Some people have been known to maybe just set a candle in the middle of it. Some people have them on their dressing tables with their cotton wool or bits and pieces like that. So the baskets are probably a more decorative piece as opposed to our vases and our tableware and our photo frames, that type of thing. But they're certainly very popular as wedding gifts or as a piece that would pass on from one generation to the next.
Right. Okay. I was just thinking, because I know my basket, I'll maybe put like smaller things in it, but it definitely is not someplace where it's going to get knocked or have anything too big into it. But I do love my vases for everyday use. So most people would know Belleek by the shamrock. I think that's probably the most well-known. If you look at it and you see that, it's a Belleek. But I know that wasn't original. Am I correct in saying that? It wasn't originally on the pieces and kind of became more of a symbol later on?
Well, we would have started off by making earthenware. So Belleek would have started off by making pedestals and hand basins and telegraph insulators, and this was all earthenware. So it was the late 1860s, between 1860 and 1870, when they started making the Parian china. Now, the basket weave pattern, which is our oldest classic design, and it's still made to this day, it has the hand-painted shamrock on it. So the shamrock has been going really from the start, and it still remains today on our classic tableware range. The basket weave pattern came about because baskets were used for carrying turf. They were used for carrying some product to our killings. And Michael Maguire, who was a manager here at the time, he noticed this basket weave, and it was through that's how we developed the basket weave pattern, which is still one of our most popular iconic designs today. So we have the basket weave pattern, and then we have the hand-painted shamrocks, which are one of the iconic symbols as well.
Wonderful. Now, I know we're talking a whole lot, and these are all things that people are going to learn when they come to the visitor center. And I don't want to give it all away, because you want to have something, something that you're going to learn when you're there. So let's turn to the visitor center itself. This is obviously has been added on to the original building and has grown over the years. So let's talk about the tour options, because there are quite a few now, and what visitors can experience when they come for a visit.
Okay, so the visitor centre, we would always have had people coming to visit the pottery, but we never had a proper visitor centre until 1989. And the visitor centre has restaurant, self-service restaurant. It has a museum with pieces dating back to 1857. It has the showroom. It has an audiovisual presentation in different languages. But the highlight of the visit for most people want to do the guided tour. And this takes you into the heart of the pottery, where you have a chance to meet and talk with the craftspeople and to see how the product is made. So we have our tours run Monday to Friday, and our guided 30-minute tour takes you, like I said, into the factory. We also have options where you can do the guided tour and avail of your morning tea or coffee and scones served in Belleek tableware, of course, looking over the banks of the River Erne. We have an afternoon tea option where, again, you do the tour and then sit and have your afternoon tea. We have what we call the hands-on experience, and this is where you do the guided tour and you then sit down with one of our craftspeople to maybe paint a piece. Now, it's one of our own pieces because our pottery is made in molds. It's not pottery that's thrown. So they'll take maybe a cup and add the handle. They'll do the fettling process. They'll put their initials on the bottom. We then take it through the different stages and it's posted home to them. Or if they use the option of painting, they'll paint their own piece. It doesn't have to be shamrocks. They can put whatever design they wish on the piece. Or some people prefer maybe to make a flower or to make a coaster in the flowering department. So that's the hands-on one, which normally takes about 2 hours. And it's really suitable for anything from 1 to 10 people. And that one has to be pre-booked.
So let's talk a little bit about the tours that you can do at Belleek, because it's not just come in, walk through a factory. You have some really great options for visitors, and some of those are really fun.
We do. We have our regular tour, which lasts for 30 minutes. This takes you into the heart of the pottery, where you have a chance to meet and talk with the craftspeople and see the process of how Belleek is made. That's a 30-minute guided tour. We also have that option with morning coffee and scones. So after the tour, you have an option to sit in our lovely restaurant and looking out at the River Erne and have your food served on Belleek tableware. Or we can do the afternoon tea option. And then we have kind of a special tour, which is suitable for maybe 2 to 10 people. And that's what we call the hands-on or the make and paint tour. So we take you in and do the guided tour first of all, and then you have the opportunity to sit with the craftsperson. It can be somebody in the parrying department where you maybe finish making your own mug by putting the handle on and doing some fettling, or in our painting department where you can paint your own design on one of our pieces, or maybe make a flower or do a hand-woven coaster or something like that in the flowering department. Those pieces are usually initialed and we then take them through the process and post them home. It takes about a week to 10 days to go through the process, but we'll get them posted back to your home. We're looking now at developing an even more bespoke tour, but that will be for 2025-26, where you'll meet one of it's actually our head, who was our head of design, Fergus. He is retired from that position now, and he does a couple of days a week with us, but he knows an awful lot about the history. So it would be a tour which would take you into places that you have never seen before in Belleek. So we're really excited about that, and there'll be more on that later on.
Oh, that's exciting. So the one thing I know about Belleek is that you are not going to find any seconds. You're not going to find pieces that have a little bit of, maybe there's a nick or maybe the paint smudge. I mean, everything that comes out of Belleek for sale is pristine. And if I'm not mistaken, in that hands-on bit, do you get the chance to break Belleek pottery?
That's right. And that's actually quite funny on the tour because you're right. We don't have any seconds. Anything that's not perfect gets broken. So we have this area where we'll give you a pair of goggles and we'll get you to smash a piece which hasn't passed our quality control. And people say, well, I don't mind that little defect. I'm happy to take it. And you go, no, it has to be smashed. So the look on their faces as they're smashing the Belleek, it is funny to watch. But when it does pass our quality control, we put our trademark on the bottom. So our trademark consists of a round tower, an Irish wolfhound, and a harp. And if you look closely at our stamp, there's like a little island underneath. So they sit on the island of Ireland and they have little shamrocks at each side. So that is the trademark which we say, without which none is genuine. So if it doesn't have that mark, it's not a genuine piece of Belleek.
I was actually looking at mine the other day when I was kind of going through the website, and I noticed that it had, you can see the different trademarks they've used through the years. And I was like, oh, well, I know my Belleek isn't old, but I was like, I wonder if it's all from the same period, which it was. But that was kind of a fun little treasure hunt, yeah. I guess, for me.
The symbols remain the same, but we do change the colours to denote different years or different anniversaries. So yeah, and it's a good way of dating your Belleek. And then our next stamp change probably will be for our 170th year. So there's no certain time limit. We just pick anniversaries or we let design look after that.
So when people are considering a tour, do all the tours need to be pre-booked, or can they just happen along and possibly get onto just the regular 30-minute tour? How do people need to plan for this visit?
They can. Some people like to plan insofar as they want to know what they're doing every day. But our tours run Monday to Friday, and we always have availability at different times for walk-ins. So people who are coming along and maybe just passing by and see this beautiful building, don't even know what it is, and pop in. So we always have space for people coming in. Equally, you can book online. If it's the bespoke tour you want, obviously we'll have information on that, and you would need to ring ahead and give us some notice for the hands-on, the make and paint. But for the guided 30-minute tour, those are readily available Monday to Friday.
And then at the end, you obviously have the option to purchase some beautiful Belleek. They were so kind when I bought my basket, because they were like, well, do you want it shipped or do you want to take it? And I'm like, I don't know. And they said, well, you should have it shipped, because if you break it, we don't replace it. But if it breaks during shipping, we'll send you another.
That's right. Yeah.
And then my basket is maybe, I don't know, 6 inches, if you like circumference wise, if it were round. And the box I got was probably a foot square and so well packaged.
Good.
So definitely worth every penny of the shipping.
Well, I suppose the good thing is the showroom has the complete range of product, and we'd have certain exclusive items that you can't find anywhere else. But once you ship, we take off your VAT tax, which in Northern Ireland here it's 20%. So generally tax coming off will cover your shipping, and it's insured. We don't need the piece back. We just need a photograph. And as I do say, that means you have more room in your suitcase to buy other things on your holiday.
See, great tip right there. Patricia, so people can book the tours online. They can walk in for that 30-minute tour. They may get lucky with another one, but if you want that hands-on type thing, you definitely need to pre-book that. So can you give us website information and also any social media where people might be able to get a little bit more inspiration on a visit?
The website is www.belleekpottery.ie. So when you go on to that, it'll show you all, what about the visitor centre. Just go to experiences and pick whichever one you want, and you can book that online. And our Facebook is the same, Belleek Pottery Visitor Centre, and the same with Instagram. So all of that is readily available out there. Terrific. Or they can email us to customerservices@belleek.ie if somebody wants a wee bit more detail. And quite often we get a phone call to say, well, I'm going to be in the area on a certain day. Is there availability? So we can always check that out as well.
And the store itself is open on weekends as well. There are just no tours, correct?
That's right. We're open from high season, really March through to Christmas on the Saturdays. Sundays might finish a little earlier than that. But, sometimes people come along, they just maybe want to have a cup of coffee. They might just want to do some shopping. They might want to browse the museum. So you can walk in and do that. There's no charge for that. We have lots of car parking. And we're a very short distance from the village as well, which has a lot of things to see and do. We have our own potter's bench up there in the village, which just came about this year. And there's a lot of history attached to the village as well.
Here's a question for you, and I get this a lot, and it's a money question, which is why I get it a lot, not necessarily specific to Belleek. But Belleek sits on the border of Ireland and Northern Ireland. So would you accept cash euros for payment?
We do. So whilst we're in Northern Ireland and it's British pounds, which is the currency we're in, we also take euros, we take dollars, we take all major credit cards. And if you use your card, it's obviously the bank rate, but we do have special rates for dollar cash and euro cash as well.
Okay. That's actually a really good tip to know, because that is one question I get a lot when people are crossing over from Ireland into Northern Ireland is, will they take euros? And I found that along the border, you're more likely to have that. But once you're firmly in Northern Ireland, you're not going to really find places that will take your euros.
That's right, yeah. Generally, the border towns and villages will accept both. But like you say, if you were to go further into, up towards Belfast, and that is generally not,
right.
It wouldn't be a euro zone.
Very good to know. So you have been so generous with your time, and I definitely need to get back to the Belleek Visitor Centre. Like I said, it's been a while since I've been there, so definitely something that is going to be added to my list the next time I am in that area. But before I let you go, what 3 things should people add to their itinerary if they're planning to visit Fermanagh or stop at Belleek? What 3 places around you should definitely be given a thought? You're going to need a car to reach some of these recommended destinations, and I'm excited to share that my listeners receive an exclusive 10% discount from Irish Car Rentals. All you have to do is visit IrelandFamilyVacations.com/ICR, and that will take you directly to the booking page and my exclusive 10% discount. Again, that's IrelandFamilyVacations.com/ICR. Now, let's hear about these recommended destinations.
Well, from ourselves, we're about 24 miles from the county town of Enniskillen, so they have a beautiful old castle there, the Enniskillen Castle, which has recently been refurbished, but it's over 600 years old. There are 3 National Trust properties in Fermanagh, one up at Florence Court, we have Castle Cool,
Beautiful
Prom, and the one at Florence Court is close to the famous Marble Arch Caves, which is always worth a visit. And if you get a nice sunny day in Fermanagh, it's hard to beat a trip out on the lake. There's so many beautiful places to see along the lake. And for those who love water sports, there are so many different things to do and see. Lots of places to eat. We have our 5-star hotel. We have a few 4-star hotels. And, if you're in the boat, you can drop off at all of these places, maybe for a bite of lunch or, there's so much to see and do.
It's really a beautiful county and definitely worth discovering for sure. Well, Patricia, I want to thank you again. You have been so generous with your time, and I know that this is something that is going to be really, really interesting for my listeners. So thank you so much for joining me.
Not at all. Thank you for having me. And the next time you're in Belleek, do remember to give us a shout.
Definitely. Does anybody else want to go and do the tour that lets you break Belleek pottery? Or is it just me? I can't imagine my own Belleek breaking. So it almost seems taboo, right? Just sounds like fun. Anyway, if you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a 5-star review at Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you can't leave a review on your podcast app, visit the Ireland Family Vacations Facebook page and leave a review there, or visit Trustpilot at IrelandFamilyVacations.com/trust. and say something nice. I would really appreciate it. If you have questions or comments, you can email me, Jody, Jody, at IrelandFamilyVacations.com. And as always, thank you so much for listening. Until next time, slán go fóill.